about that. It is really about combining the two, because what we need to get to is the last frontier, which is highest service level at the minimum possible cost. So that is where these kind of tailored or customized supply chain approaches come in, where flexibility of supply chain is key, and you have a role to play in that. The other element which I talked of in terms of best practices is this whole strategic value chain partnership. So what that really is, there are several stages as such to collaboration, and so far what we have been seeing is, at least in the Indian context, is what we call the stage one, where your company's collaboration or company's interface with suppliers or logistics providers or partners has been very transactional in nature, very much limited to, just some kind of a forecast sharing, or looking at how vendor managed inventories can be shared, or even logistics even in logistics context, very, very, I should say, transactional. But now, as we are moving into looking at some of the best practices in this area, what we see is that in India and actually in the Asia Pac region, a lot of the companies are now moving to much more collaborative regimes. If I look at stage 3, there are certain regions, especially Australia, where some of these are being followed, where you're looking about, it's a very, very collaborative structure. You're talking about joint profitability plans. You're talking about hitting the market together. You're talking about looking at your strategic goals as in supplier and the company together, which dials into joint forecasting, joint promotions planning, sharing of market insights. And some of these things, while this might be sounding very FMCG-ish, but some of these things have, huge implications for all of you also, as you deal with a lot of these FMCG players or other industrial products or such. So having said that, I will not spend too much time on this slide, but this is just about some examples of how companies have really, moved from a very simple, basic kind of a collaborative structure, where we have an example of Office Max, to a very, very advanced structure, where we have somebody like a Nestle, where they're looking at, very much collaboratively, I would say, engaging with their suppliers. So what they really are looking for from the suppliers, and you can look at yourself also as a supplier, is that they're looking at a lot of very collaborative information sharing. They're looking at transparency. And they're looking at not a very short term, but as was just mentioned, a very bifocal, which is also a very, very long-term view. That is what it's all about. So that all dials into the readiness for growth. Companies now, when we go to clients, it's very much about, okay, we are talking about a 10x growth in the next 5 to 7 years. And what we often realize in those contexts is it's very much driven by the kind of suppliers that you have, by the entire ecosystem that you have across your value chain. So as they are growing, it is important for them to select the right partners who can help them in this growth trajectory. And that's again where you come in. So your value add to their growth trajectory, how can that be enabled, is something which you need to think of. And that is the way to pave the way forward. Last but certainly not the least is this whole paradigm, or the new cost frontier. So cost has definitely taken a very, very important, I would say, role going forward. Companies now are very, very aggressively looking at cost reductions. And I must say cost reduction not at the expense of losing the service levels. And in this, what they look at are opportunities to take costs out across the value chain, right from design, procurement, to manufacturing, distribution, and sales and service. So that is several levers are being applied. Just to touch on a few, if you're talking about procurement, it's very much around strategic procurement. It's about whole procurement organization transformations. If you're talking about manufacturing, it's about footprint optimization. It's about looking at where exactly you need to locate your manufacturing footprint, or how should your distribution footprint be. Do you need to have distribution centers in the first place, or can you hit the market directly? What should your network design be? Those kind of elements. And then you have, of course, your sales and service, which dials into the sales force effectiveness and such. So net, all I'm trying to say here is that they need to understand, there needs to be a very, very clear cost transparent regime in this whole setup. A lot of these concepts, like for example, zero-based costing, is where there is very clear, there is complete clarity on the kind of cost structure that you are offering them and they are offering you. as a surplus on that. So those kind of things give a lot of credibility and take these relationships from transactional to being very, very strategic and collaborative, which is what is the need of the hour and going ahead. So this is again, I think, just recap of the same element, that how companies are looking at end-to-end transformation of their entire logistics value chain. They're looking at value chain levers, which dials into collaboration, which is what I talked of. They're looking at organizational levers, which talk about how they can take a very tailored approach, which is again what I touched on. And they're looking at functional levers, which is also what is being talked about in terms of how you can look at driving higher productivity levels as you are looking at growth. Productivity in terms of your truck utilization, for example, productivity in terms of size standardization, productivity in terms of more leaner warehouses, higher utilization, minimization of demurrage and such. So a lot of these elements are also very critical as we look at some of the functional levers to achieve cost reduction across the logistics value chain. And that's where your value add comes on how you can help those companies achieve that and get them on your portfolio. Quickly to touch on some of the key implications that emerge. Again, I would like to make a note here that this is not an exhaustive list. These are just some of the ones that we feel were critical or key to bring up in this forum. So clearly, as I said, that with the increased cost pressures, companies are looking at much greater cost transparency and with their logistics partners. So how the build-up of the whole costing works and dials into something which is feasible for the two. They as partners want to be aware of, want to better understand, rather than having a very ambiguous cost structure which they have no visibility of. The second one is, of course, around, they are looking at partners who can be there, who can support them in their growth aspirations. So you need to see how or what are the kind of value additions that you can provide. From as Mr. Bhargav was mentioning, it's not just about playing a very tactical role, it's about really expanding the role that you have. So what can you really do from a CFA perspective? Is it be giving them market intelligence? Is it giving them the level of regulatory insight? As Rajiv had just mentioned, do you really understand the regulations well, or is it about process? So all those kind of things are very important, and that is what takes your role to the next level as you're looking at collaborating with some of these companies, which dials into the whole strategic partnerships element, which we have the third one. So again, seamless flow of information is all what this is about. Many times when we talk of to the representatives and companies who interact with all of you all, what they clearly say is that at times there is a lot of lag in the information that they don't get. So there might be ambiguity in the information, a certain regulation has changed because of which the stuff is lying at the ports is not getting cleared, and they have no idea. So your role there is critical to understand the law, internalize, and see what the implications are for the company that they can act on well in time to minimize the risk. Organizations are looking at getting into the new frontier. So this is a very, I would say very operational element that is here, that how you can, look at providing logistics services, not just in the urban domain, but also in the tier 2, tier 3 cities where companies now are moving towards to get bigger bang for the buck. And lastly, one of these points for you to think of was that, as companies are looking at completely outsourced models, for, in terms of logistics, like there are 4 PL options or even 5 PL in some cases. We firmly believe that there are cases where you might just feel that you're losing touch with the customer directly. So that is again something to think of, what can be done, and some of these value adds that you can put in the space that can help you continue to maintain those kind of relationships or further enrich, not losing it because of the middlemen that come into the picture. So that was my, I think I'm well in the 2 minutes, so I'll close it now. Just some thoughts we wanted to share. Hope that's helpful. Thanks.
Thanks, Amit. I'm sorry I had to rush you for time because we had to keep to the schedule. Amit did cover the global supply chain and trends and implications. He did cover the mega trends which are there for the taking. Consumer affluence is something which we are all aware of, and the growing middle class is something which we can experience every day. Increased urbanization is again a factor which we are dealing with. Infra development, rising costs and regulatory environment is something again we all are aware and bracing with day to day. On the supply chain, he did cover the customer centricity, the need for customer centricity, looking beyond the obvious, going for tailored supply chain solutions, rather than looking at cost or service level to transform into cost and service level. He also talked about the 4 stages of strategic value chain partnership which can be developed, moving from a transactional to a more collaborative regime, joint profitability planning. I mean, something which perhaps is something, I mean, he said might be looking at FCMJ, but maybe the need of the hour as we move more into dynamic environment. And the readiness to support the partners' accelerated growth. Are we in line to give them that extra buck when they need to grow faster? Reaching a new cost frontier, which is basically all the partners are actually very cost conscious and they are looking at end-to-end transformation. So zero-based costing is a need of the day, and perhaps we also need to be part of that. And also to conclude on the implications, he said that there's a need for greater cost transparency. Partners who can support global aspirations will be welcomed. Seamless flow of information is critical, and providing access to rural and underpenetrated markets, the new frontiers, is something which each of the customers will look forward to. Finally, there are people who are going to be completely outsourcing into the 4PL and 5PL markets, and perhaps there's a need for a direct customer relationship to be maintained. With this, we come to the end of the session. However, I just throw open to the audience for any question to the panelists on the session. You have a question? The mic is.
So my name is Krishnan. I want to ask Mr. Bhargava. I am very happy, sir, that at least now you have confessed that less has been done for the CHA brokers, sir. Many officers known to me, voluntarily retired, naturally retired, I realized only now the brokers how they have faced problems, sir. But finally you have said in the open forum, I am very happy. That is number one. Number two, the government should understand, once they declare the revenue to be collected for the financial year, how it is being collected with the minimum working of 8 hours by the officers, 24 works CHAs are doing, that's where revenues are being collected. This should be noted by the government. How we should solve this problem? I have one suggestion. In many countries, citizens has to compulsorily go to the military and take training for 2 years. I feel the officers has to do training with the CHAs and do the work of CHAs, then they will understand the difficulties of CHAs. Then at least the law will be amended. Thank you.
On to this, see, your perception is good, and I agree that, as I said, that nothing much has been done for the CHA community, even for a office in the custom house. For one single small room, they have to run. That kindly, sir, allow us to retain it. That used to be in Bombay, in Nhava Sheva also, and some custom houses do not provide a place to be there. So that is the minimum requirement I think they need in the custom houses for doing odd jobs and helping their clients and their own jobs. So that is one. And then the expectation from the CHA, he does a small error and he is punished. So they need to be enabled by the government. So when we were in Nhava Sheva, I had good collaboration with the BCHA there. We were conducting joint training programs, and something was being done. I think government needs to seriously consider it as to enable them to do their job still better. And as Mr. Prande and Mr. Bhatnagar, they said yesterday that when they joined the service and they were told that look for a good CHA. And I agree to this because when I was also first time assistant collector customs in Ahmedabad, there used to be Lalbhai and what company there, and Mr. Lalbhai used to be a good CHA. I think there were only 2 CHAs there, but very knowledgeable, very good integrity wise, and he will come and explain with the tariff, with the policy, the documents filed, and we appreciated and learnt in course of that. So I absolutely agree, and not only that, I say that all government officers in government, in various departments, unless they get exposure in the industry, I mean, a stint over there, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, learning from their side, they will not realize the difficulties which they face, which the industry faces. So, I mean, I think in certain administrations there are programs like that where government officers are allowed to go on deputation to companies for some time. And that is very vital, I think, knowing from both sides. People can appreciate better and address solution to problems. That is one I agree with this, it should happen. So, thank you so much.
We'll take one more question. Oh, there are, I mean, okay, please.
Yeah, sorry. I'm Ruben. I appreciate the views coming from the industry that the custom brokers have to be more efficient, proactive, and then data collection and reviewing. I suppose we have also come a long way, and I would say quite a chunk of our fraternity has already started doing that, though some more have to do it. But the industry expectation sometimes goes beyond certain limits. Everything is possible, not that we are not capable of or not that we are not intending to do it, but the support of cost is never ever accepted. They all want this at free of cost and probably less than what they are paying now. That is the question. Please do not underestimate our capabilities. We have survived under very difficult situations and we continue to do that. We will be able to emerge and provide you the state-of-the-art technology, and we'll operate out on that, provided the industry is willing to share the cost. We are not asking for this to be a tool to enhance our profit, but you have to recognize the fact that there is a cost element attached to that. That is the only request I would like to make, and we'll stand committed to keep doing things the way the industry expects, and we'll certainly do that. Thank you very much.
I think this is a really nice to know that, yes, first of all, we do not have any as an industry issue on capabilities of CHA. What we learn in industry, when I go back in 1982, so along with CHA person only I have gone and see how the noting is done and how the things are and what is transformed from that. So basically industry is not expert in your field. Industry, you are the one who are going to guide the industry how the things are changing and how to do that. And secondly, on cost issue, definitely everything what you do has got cost. And my belief is that today CHAs are not doing that. For every services what you render, say for example, if I want any legal advice, if I go to Big Four consultancy, they will charge me in lakhs. If I call CHA, he will give me free of charge. And it is its CHA who has to see that they will open a legal wing, which will be a separate part vertical in there, and then they will say, okay, Mr. Sant, your query, I am forwarding it to my legal department and he will give you tomorrow, but this cost me something. We have no issue. We have no issue. If we want, we are getting a good advice, much cheaper than a bigger consultants or this thing. CHA giving advice, even if it is at little reasonable cost, there are no issues. And we look forward. This is how you need to develop yourself to see that what value added you can give, industry will pay it for that because nothing comes free. And when we pay, it is an encouragement and you will be more interested to investing into IT, tool, data, and people. So we are for that. Definitely, I can say.
Sir, I mean, some addition to that. We have been doing this, as you acknowledge, we have been doing.
I think we are almost running out of time. We'll just take one more question here. This gentleman here. This is the last question, and then we will close the session.
I am Ramesh Babu. I actually have two questions, and maybe I will complete both. In short, one is to Mr. Bhargava. This is just an idea and your advice because it is not against the department anyway because you are anyway retired. So I wanted to know one thing from you because you have already highlighted one thing that the department has introduced self-assessment and they are not prepared for it. And now I put question myself and it is difficult for me to understand when federal governments are able to implement VAT which is online and which they are moving forward and CBEC being a central government and central body and closely monitored and it is been having an act which they are following the act and they are implementing the act and you are also sharing within the closed doors and interacting with the senior officials in the past. What is making it difficult to implement it actually, whether the spirit is missing, otherwise the regime is not serious, otherwise, what actually is the difficulty to get it implemented? This is one question, where you can throw your light on that. And the second one is, Mr. Pramod has really given the insight. In fact, as a user, he has done the proper detailed study in how the CHA works, how the shipping works. Maybe he can, I would not be surprised if you come out with a company and said you start a company as a CHA. So, one thing I would like to know, the customer, see, we have a difficulty as an industry. Like we can be an expertise and we can be a good service provider, but the industry wants us to be a banker. So how do we deal with it? If you can throw some light on that. Thank you.
If you have seen my presentation, that we say that we want the billing to be on time, and if we have, there is, as I said, that CHA is not a financing company and no customer should treat them as a financing company. They should be paying on time. So it is you who will see that the bills are submitted on time, you have data and you follow up on that. And you have to keep one strategy that yes, if the advances are required, then advances are required. You cannot be paying from your pocket to clear the shipment on behalf of customer. It's very clear, and this is in your hand. There are many things in the hands of CHA, that CHA takes the last burden every time. I think there is a time that you have to segregate somewhere to say no also to customer. And when it is genuine and you have good relationship, I think customer will accept that.
Sir, last question.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
Okay, this question is
sorry.
for...
we are running out of time. Okay, last one. Yeah.
We have a question for Mr. Rajiv. Can you please elaborate on the sentence where you made that tax avoidance will be slowly treated as tax evasion?
The debate on what is, and this is also the view of the Indian Supreme Court, that every business is entitled to organize their affairs in a manner that amounts for the least amount of tax. As a individual citizen or a corporate citizen, I am obliged to pay the right tax. I'm not obliged to pay more than the right tax. But when we debate as to what is a way in which I can organize my affairs, so a lot of people buy insurance, take housing loans because you get a tax break on that. That's a tax planning, which is a legitimate tax planning. But if I create artificial transaction, which results in lower tax, everything that I've done is legal, but the sole objective of what I did was only to avoid tax, that more and more is being viewed as tax evasion, therefore not permissible, versus the legitimate tax planning, which is permissible. So this line in the past, so long as I have the right paper, the authorities would not go beyond why I did what I did. Now, more and more authorities are going not only by what paper I have, but did I have a legitimate business objective, or was it just a sham legally done to take a loophole? That's the point.
Thank you to all the panelists for an excellent and lively discussion and debate. Also to the audience who participated with detailed questions. With this, we would like to conclude the session for the morning. Thank you.
Thank you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, I now request our session chairman, Mr. Pradeep Panikkar, to present the mementos to fellow speakers. Firstly, may I request Mr. Pradeep to present the memento to Speaker Mr. Pramod Sant. May I now request Mr. Pradeep to present the memento to Mr. Rajiv Dimri. To Mr. K.R. Bhargava. And to Mr. Amit Saharia. May I now request Mr. Narendra Prabhakar, Vice Chairman FFFAI, to present the memento to our session chairman, Mr. Pradeep Panikkar. Ladies and gentlemen, this session has been sponsored by Royal Sundaram Alliance Insurance. So I'd now like to invite Captain Ashish Samat to please come on stage and present a memento to